I'm Stephan Johnston. I've been a contractor for about 7 years on PEI. I do everything from tree planting, silviculture to smaller scale harvesting. And I'm also weeks away at this point from launching timbertraders.ca, which is essentially a marketplace for woodlot owners, contractors, and sawmill owners to list and sell their products, their standing wood, to just make essentially, I've noticed on the island, and in the Maritimes more so, is if you don't have a personal connection sometimes or know the right person, there's a lot of misconnections that are happening. So my intention is to have a place where if I'm cutting some red spruce, I can post it, and if some sawmill owner or anyone else is looking for that product, they can connect and do business. And it's for the 3 Atlantic provinces off the hop. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm sure most of the people in this room will be sending emails out. I do all kinds of stuff to try and get the word out there. And I'm working with the Woodlot Owners Association to hopefully add value to forestry on the island. And it's also a really good opportunity. I've been talking to a few people who have a log buyer on the island, someone who can put together loads, etc., to just assist with the forestry industry.
My name's Jody. I just don't need this probably. My name is Jody Hamper. I work for Groups of Wood. We're a hardwood mill in Nova Scotia. We need about 60,000 ton a year to run our mill, which is 30,000 cord. I buy wood for Nova Scotia. PEI is out of New Brunswick. We buy red maple, sugar maple, white yellow birch, ash and oak, and sometimes. I come over and work with landowners to get the most value for your logs. So I'm on the road all the time. You can come over, whether you put your logs out roadside, I'll buck them up or show where to buck to get the most value, or walk your wood out with you and show you the best value is. And we're always looking for new suppliers.
So my name is Travis Crane. I'm owner of Crane's Land Clearing. Me and my father, Roger Crane, some of you in this room might know him, but we do larger scale operations, so that's clearing for farmland. There is a big demand for that right now. Basically, we cut the length harvest, and I sell a lot of my hardwood logs and stuff to Jody, so I have a really good buyer, and I'm lucky. But some of the, with Fiona and the damage and stuff, it's been very challenging as a contractor to try to, tell people about, it takes extra time and it takes so much fuel and wear and tear on these machines. So yes, we have, the government has a great program in place, but unfortunately what we're running into is that it's just not covering the operating costs, like we kind of talked about earlier about how much wood is in front of us. It just depends how many cord for the landowner, basically. But we do thinning. We're always open for phone calls, emails, stuff like that. But I've been in business for about 3 years here in the island. I was out in BC, spent about 8 years out there, running feller buncher, just doing all types of stuff, road building, opening up mines, stuff like that. So I'd like to come home and put my knowledge to the test. So thank you for having me here as well.
So basically the format that we have this afternoon is it's open to discussion and questions. Everybody knows the issues that we have in Prince Edward Island, and especially Queens County and Kings County was flattened, as I might say, by Fiona, and a lot of over mature wood is still on the ground, and our biggest problem, of course, has been finding somebody to do the work. Unfortunately, the government program to assist with the cleanup, obviously they only had so much money to put into the program, so they could only carry it on for a certain length of time. And I'm sure if you talk to these contractors and buyers, they will tell you what the price is right now. I know that back in the 1990s, I've been involved in this industry for a little while, but back in the 1990s, I had $120 cord standing for long lumber. $120 a cord standing, and that's over 30 years ago. Well, approximately 30 years ago. And today, I'd be lucky if I could get $30 a cord.
Realistically,
Yeah.
yes.
Exactly.
That is correct.
So that,
As a contractor, we only $90 a cord.
exactly, yeah, and you have, and the trucking costs and the, you know, as you say, delivering costs, so that's the biggest issue in Prince Edward Island. So I mean, I was very, we are excited to hear about the biodiversity, you know, introduction that we had this morning, because we have to look at how we're going to manage the woodlots in Prince Edward Island, because as anybody that owns wood knows, there's no money to be made in the woodlot industry. And as Julie Lynn said this morning, we have to preserve the forests in Prince Edward Island, or our grandkids or our great-grandkids, and we know island forests to, you know, to have. So we'll open it up to questions, and you can do it specifically and or all three. So Watson, I'll just moderate it, I'll shut up. Thanks.
Jody.
Watson.
Yes.
One for Jody. And you buy veneer logs as well?
So we do. We buy veneer logs. Our hardwood logs are 8'6", 7'6", and 6'6". Like I said, it's red maple, white birch, yellow birch, sugar maple, ash, and oak. Then the veneer is above hardwood log. We buy veneer from Nova Scotia and we export it to Columbia Forest Products in Maine. And there's only veneer in sugar maple and white and yellow birch.
What length of yellow birch?
So birch, it can be 8'9", 9'5", or 10'5", because it's peeled, so it's got to be exactly that. If it comes in an inch too short, it's kicked out.
If you're saying 10.5, does that mean 10.7 or 10.8?
It can be 10'8", it can be 10'7", if it's 10'4", it'll be dropped back to 9'5".
Do you come to private woodlots to look at the wood that's before it's cut?
Yeah, I do so, yes.
Okay.
The only thing, I'll be honest with you, veneer is a dirty word. It's good money, it's really good money, but it's hard to get veneer logs. Last year I think we bought 22,000 cord at my mill in Nova Scotia, and we got 100 cord of veneer out of that. It's tough, but there is good money in it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Can I ask one question for Trevor?
Sure, yes, but I'm just thinking that when you address the panel, if they could repeat the question, because you don't have a microphone.
Oh, sorry.
So just repeat the question
So
everybody can hear.
Yeah, he just asked about veneer logs.
Yeah.
Veneer logs, it's just a higher quality of hardwood logs. We do buy them, but we export them to Columbia Forest Products in Maine, just because they're peeled. We're a sawmill, we saw lumber. But we do buy veneer.
Thank you. Can I ask one for Trevor?
Yes, sure.
If you just heard that you throw a number there, $30 a cord, is that realistic stumpage value you could pay the landowners, Travis?
So for $30 a cord for landowners, yes, because just the price of running these machines is a lot, and at the end of the day, we just have to make sure that the landowner and the contractor are happy. That's all we're looking for there. It just depends on how much you have as well. So if you
Is it white spruce you're talking?
white spruce, black spruce, yes, yeah, those types of trees, correct.
You guys any market for poplar?
We do right now, but it's probably not worth it coming to PEI. Is it poplar with our hardwood logs? It's a roadside price. We pay the trucking. With poplar, it's a delivered price, and with the boat not going from here to our mill is probably 320 kilometers. You're probably looking at probably $45 trucking, and we're paying $60. So it doesn't leave you very much to put a roadside and pay your landowner. If the boat was running, maybe a different story down east more, but from here with no boat, it's not worth it.
Stephan?
Steph.
With that website there,
Yeah.
like, will that be set up to kind of help us price it too? Because I don't have a giant stockpile of red oak, but like every now and then I take home, you know, some good pieces of wood, but I don't want to like look at the timber market to figure out what it's priced at, you know, like will there be kind of a guideline to help us price that stuff?
Well, you can set the price you're looking for.
Oh,
You can also search other people that are looking for red oak and see what their prices or maybe please contact. And that's another aspect that I like about it, because it will kind of show people what people are paying
sure.
and what people are wanting, as opposed to, I know myself, when I started off, I would go to the same sawmill and I didn't know if I was getting a good price or not a good price, or because I didn't have that extended reach. And then as you kind of make more connections, like, heck, I wish I was selling to this guy
Right.
3 years ago, because it's $50 more a cord, and I mean, you know, etc.
Cool.
So can the PEI woodlot owner, for example, can you put a link to your website from the PEIWOA website?
Absolutely.
So that members could contact you, and the same for every contractor.
Yeah.
That way, it's much easier, you know, to get the information. That would be
Yeah,
worthwhile.
absolutely. And we'll be sending out tons of emails and contacting. It's just,
Yes.
we're right on the cusp right now. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it takes a little while to get organized.
Yes.
All right. Julie Lynn, and then
I was just curious what your website is open to non-timber forest products as well?
So when we initially were consulting with web designers, is initially we were going to just focus on logs just to get it going. Just like our initial thing's going to be a test group to work out bugs and kind of get a feel for it, and then we're going to get it out there. But the intention is to expand it to different tenders, silviculture, you know, all kinds of different aspects. I just didn't want to go. I've learned, don't go too crazy, too fast, because you can get overwhelmed. And I work 60+ hours in the woods every week with 4 kids. So I want to develop it at a reasonable pace.
okay, John?
When you got the contractors are looking at going to someone's site, there's 2 of you of different sizes, right? So what kind of acreage or things do you guys find it viable to go into?
Okay, for myself, it's like I do have a fairly large machine. It's called a Landrich. It's got a Ponzi H7. We have an 8-wheel drive forwarder, which my father operates. It just literally has to. It all depends on what the landowner has. Like if it's 2 or 3 acres and it's very thick and it's very, you know, that's something we can pay you and we can make some money as well. That's going to determine whether, you know, how we take jobs. But it literally just depends on whatever the landowner is looking for, whether that's thinning or, oh, we'd like to open up this 5 acres for pasture land or something, you know, it all depends.
Varies,
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
So you like to be on a job site for how long with everything?
Well,
kind of
yeah, like for myself, it's nice to be there at least, you know, a couple of weeks. Minimum a week would be great due to the floating. Just the cost of that is gone right up like everything else. But yeah, just over a week would be preferable.
Do you have to hire somebody to float your own equipment?
Yes. Unfortunately, I don't have my own truck and trailer yet, but
Yeah.
I get Chapman Brothers Construction. They're great to deal with. They float my digger iron around, so I'm very lucky with that. Yes.
But expensive equipment around, you know, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you're parked it for a week, I mean, again, the other issue is something like that, you need to have it on the road. Right?
And that is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question back, David?
Sorry.
I hear stuff.
Okay.
I am, and I'm the other end of the spectrum. So if someone has like a 10 hectares you got, I'm gonna say, hey, pass it on to someone else. For me, I actually did some work at a site that you were at a little while ago, but it was just about a hectare's worth. And I'd get in there, I could make my little trails, selectively take out here and there what was down. I mix it up, so I don't go to a site for weeks on end. I'll have a couple of sites that I'm continually working at with the landowners. Like a lot of you probably know Sid Watson here. Throughout the years, I've been at various properties doing little treatments, and I'll combine stuff too. I'll go in and say there's 2 hectares, I'll do a commercial hardwood thinning. I'll pull everything out, and then I'll go to the next stand, which is a pre-commercial, later on, and I'll be pre-commercialing for the day and then hauling the logs that I pick out with me. So I kind of double up, and also I enrichment plant and all that stuff. So when I'm looking at a site, I'm thinking to get the best value here, if I could get an enrichment plant, and when I'm going to haul the logs out in a bit, I can also be doing work there so that I can be as efficient as I possibly can.
Okay, David first and then Monson.
I just got two questions, so David and then David.
Go ahead.
Jody, I'm just wondering for Savoy Lumber, what is the market for all the hardwood? Is it going to pellets or is it going for actual furniture?
So our, no furniture, no flooring. Our biggest market is kitchen components and pallets. You go into Walmart or Costco, them blue pallets with a C on it for check.
Yeah.
That's probably we made 1.2 million of them last year. That's our biggest market. No, we can't compete against land and flooring, it's not worth it anymore. So kitchen components and pallets.
Cool. And this is for the whole panel, I guess, like the forestry and wood product industry is always changing. So what, in your minds, is the most valuable type of woodlot that you could envision for people that want to plan a woodlot going forward, or that are going to be doing cutting in the near future, and they replant? What does the best kind of woodlot look like from your perspective?
From my perspective, I believe in the spruce. It grows quickly, it's a good shade tree, but also your bigger hardwoods, red maple, sugar maple, stuff like that. That is pretty much where your value is, in my opinion. Yes, it takes so long for the oak to come back and stuff, right? But to plant it's usually white spruce, black spruce, stuff like that.
So you're hoping your grandkids will be able to benefit from that?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, that's right.
Jody, what do you think?
For me right now, Nova Scotia forestry is such a mess right now. We lost the pulp mill, and that really hurt forestry Nova Scotia. So right now they're running over pulpwood in the woods, which is probably not wise. We need biomass plants or energy plants or something. We just got to do it right. We got lots of people looking for these plants that are just looking for government money. That you got to pay a fair price for that product, or you won't get it. Like when the pulp mill was running, they paid a fair price for their pulp, and they got it. These biomass plants that aren't going to pay a fair price, no one's going to sell them wood. So you got to do things right. Clear cutting's a thing of the past, which is good. Doing a lot of selection cuts now, which is good. So you always go in every 15, 20 years to take logs out for these sawmills. Yeah, so I mean, softwood and hardwood both need to be around for all the sawmills. We can't survive just in softwood mills, I don't think. Like I said, our mill, we need 60,000 ton a year, and we're a pretty small mill in Nova Scotia. Like our main mill's in St. Quentin, New Brunswick, and they need about 200,000 ton a year. So we're pretty small, but we're still a big player for hardwood. We're one of the only hardwood mills in the province, and PEI, and probably southern New Brunswick. So every species and every sort of wood counts. It's just where you want to make your most money, or your biggest turnaround, I guess. That's what it comes down to.
In my opinion, you have to have a crystal ball, because the market's what's going to dictate it. 30, 40 years ago, we were planting red pine and black spruce, thinking it was going to be great. So in my opinion, I wouldn't go crazy on any one thing as a province, if I'm speaking province-wide, because we honestly don't know what the market's going to be. So on my own property, I have a bunch of different plantations that I've been planting and enriching over the years to kind of hedge my bets, because I couldn't say.
So David, don't plant all our red pine.
I did my uncle's red pine, and there's no one to sell it to, so yeah.
You're right. Monson.
Travis, I'm a retired forest consultant, and I still do a little bit of work with some forest contractors. And I know that, they've done quite a bit of work with salvages and that type of work. But they, tell me that the wood that's lying down or leaning Scotia and Brunswick because of the trucking costs and the less weight and all that, you know, fuel filters and all that stuff. So I guess the question for you is, the stuff that's laying down and leaning, how much more longer do you think is gonna be marketable?
For the stuff that's leaning and that's already on the ground, like a lot of the softwood that's on the ground right now, honestly, whether it's fir especially is the worst. It's literally, it should be chipped because it's not, you can't use it for structural anymore. The hardwood, the stuff that's leaning, it is still growing, but once you cut that tree, sometimes you'll get, Jody taught me this, you'll get it's kind of like a spider web of black that's on the end of it. These guys cannot take that, so that tree is literally firewood, even if it's 10 inches, you know what I mean, which is a sin, but yeah, that's what we're running into, and only a matter of time, probably another couple of years, and 2 years, that's what I have seen, yeah, roughly.
Do you think that the small van sawmills locally can saw that better than shipping it out by you?
Yeah, like for Crane's Land Clearing, our company, we do try to use as many local mills as we can for the softwood part of it, but unfortunately they are really sticky with what they don't want to see the bark peeling off, they don't want to, and so we're stuck with quite a few logs that are just sitting there, unfortunately.
I heard the Amish are not buying any more dry wood.
That is correct, because there has been lots of ants. I did a job out in Chester's Corner out towards Mount Stewart, and there was quite a bit of that type of ant when they were sawing into it halfway in the tree, but I couldn't see that because it showed really not much, holes. But yeah, it's getting to that point where they just they can't use it anymore. So
I also think there's going to be an adjustment period with the sawmills because there's an expectation of what a saw log is.
yes,
And if you want to find, I've had calls from other sawmills that I haven't talked to in years, so I stick to some main ones close by.
Yep.
But they're saying, I want 16 foot and I want it to be standing.
Exactly.
And I see what you're saying.
yes, right.
I love what you're saying. But the reality is what's actually standing is going to be
That's right.
smaller.
That's right. No,
And
it's,
there's going to be, there has to be an adjustment. We're going to have to meet somewhere here if we're both going to be able to kind of make money
100%.
and work through the next 10 years,
And it's
in my
true.
opinion.
And that's the unfortunate part about it, and I think anybody that's involved in the industry and owns woodlot know that, the window of opportunity, and even the biomass people, they don't want old dried out wood because it's too difficult to chip that wood, and it wears down their equipment, and everything gets more expensive all the time. And when you say, if you're going to use it for biomass, well then we need to get a price. I mean, they might even take the wood for biomass and not even pay you. And that's the only way. And it's very unfortunate because, well, we're lucky this year, and I think the hurricane season may be over for PEI, we hope. But the continual every 5 years or whatever to get hit with like Juan or Dorian or what have you, Fiona, it certainly makes it difficult when it comes to trying to manage your woodlots. Who else did I see a hand? Yes, go
I
ahead.
got a question with Jody, when you haul wood from all over the Maritime, any problem with having a regulation about when you're transporting, there might be some folks on the wood and that you have?
Yeah, there's ash borer beetle. It comes into our mills that are going to separate area. We got to solve within 2 weeks. That's it for hardwood. I know the spruce llama and beetle in Nova Scotia's racket there when it was going on, but it's province wide now. But there is restrictions. I got to deal with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency for that stuff. There's separate zones and
Certain zones you can't buy from it there. They have that boat in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. I don't think we have any in PEI.
I don't think we have any in PI, but it's. I don't want to say it's foolish, but I mean, I can buy wood from here, but come down the road I can't buy wood from. I mean, that bug doesn't know the lines, right? The bugs. That's just my opinion, but there is restrictions sometimes, yes, for sure.
We don't mind shipping it off the island, but we don't want to ship it on. Just trying to keep everything out.
Yeah, exactly.
And do you sell any wood like from up west? A lot of people are looking for scrap lumber.
Yeah.
If you sell wood, could they get logs from you, fishermen?
So at our mill in Nova Scotia, we're a feeder mill for our main mill in St. Quentin, so we're not a retail mill. We do sell a certain amount of lumber to people like trap lumber or the construction equipment for ties or blocking a machine or stuff like that. We don't advertise, but I'm sure like every truck that comes off of PEI or my mill looking for oak or ash come back with to sell for lobster trap material.
And there's hardly any hardwood for trap lumber.
Yeah,
It's a
so-
big demand the last 3 or 4 years.
Yes, and we, so at our mill, we only sell one species at a time just because we're a small mill, but we don't get much oak. Most of the oak in Nova Scotia from down in the west part of the province. So we most of our oak does get sold for lobster trap material to buyers. We don't usually saw, they just buy it for 8-foot lengths and take it over a yard. We sell it for what we paid for just to get rid of it. It's not that we don't want it, but we just don't got markets for oak like we do for birch and maple. So we do sell it.
I've sold stuff to like Ashley Coke's mill there. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. They're towards, is it around that? Kilmuir, sorry. And yeah, like I do try to support as local as I can as well, but I also have to feed, you know, what helps with my machine payments, right, too, so.
But fishermen will pay a lot more than I can
Yep.
for ash and oak, I'll be honest with you.
Yep.
A lot more.
It's true.
Is that ash and oak, is that your main trap lumber? Like what falls into that category?
I believe it is because ash, I don't know much about it, but that's what they always ask for. I think because ash is so bendable for the lats,
Okay.
and oak stinks, traps of lobster maybe.
Yellow birch.
Yeah,
Oak and yellow birch are more in demand.
Right.
yellow birches, okay, we sell mostly ash and oak, we don't sell yellow birch. I've never been asked for yellow birch for lobster trap material. We just ash and oak.
Well, a lot of the lobster traps, they don't bend, they don't use the boat traps that are PEI.
Okay.
They're just rectangular,
Square, yeah.
so they don't need the
Depends which
flexibility.
district their fishermen are.
Right.
Some district use a different wood, other district.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was told that red oak will color quickly for them for trap material, and it's also porous enough that it'll even take in flavors or whatever
Yeah.
is attractive.
If you look at the end of an oak log, you can see the pores just looking at it. It looks like an arrow bar, like it's just, it's pretty impressive really. So that does make sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
That's right oak.
Yeah,
Not white oak is closed boards.
yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Roger.
Stephan,
Yeah.
just wondering, have you experienced any issues with the fir, like Travis and I, when we,
Boxiness?
well, there's a lot of brown in it. I mean, we go up to this beautiful stand of trees, and it could only be fairly new stuff, something maybe that may be only, 5-6 inches in diameter. And when Travis saws that off and lays it down, and looks at the butt of it, there's a lot of brown.
Yeah.
It's kind of concerning, really.
I agree. I'm actually looking at, it's about almost 3 hectares of fir
Yeah.
down in Melville. And I'm looking at it, I still, I bet you when I get into it, that's the actual percentage of the usable wood in there.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, if you're gonna send it to a sawmill, they're gonna wanna test it first.
Yeah.
Because if it's all springy, then a local mill.
Yeah.
So, before I would cut that, I'd want to test the lunch and send it in and be like, and make sure I have unless you're sending it across, as done with.
Right. If I may make one other point.
Not a problem. Got all afternoon, Roger.
We were fortunate enough to have a contract with our stud wood that goes down to 4 inches. So the amount of actual waste is very minimal, very minimal. So we're fortunate to have that. Yeah. So Jody, you were talking about biomass and that kind of thing. Really, the only time we get into any amount of extra wood that be on the ground would be with our hardwood. The processing head will go up, and then it'll cut it off fairly small, but it's to deal with all the lids. And then to make that economical, to make it pay, yes, if it's big enough and long enough that we get a couple of sticks out of it, Travis will definitely do it. But we've been finding that that's the only time we get into any kind of,
Yep.
excess, unfortunately.
So he needs you to go in ahead of him with chainsaw.
Start bucking.
Hanging off the end of my phone.
Exactly.
There you go, Trav.
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
I did, but you answered it. Thank you. It's about the biomass.
I answered.
Can I say one more thing, John? Just on the question, it's a comment that,
Watson, by the way, has been involved in the woodlot industry about 70 years and has had a lot of experience in PEI. So he's a good resource if anybody else wants information.
yeah, from a biodiversity point of view, and I guess I'm wearing that hat now, is that the more forest fire debris you can leave in the forest floor, the better it is for biodiversity. So, and the bigger it is, the better it is. You know, it's a round log, you know, put it in the forest floor, and it'll really do a lot of good for biodiversity.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. It definitely does. Like
The more you can get there, the better it's gonna be in the future.
You're right. Yep. Especially leaving some of them big tops, I find. Like, I'll come back to a site just to look over stuff, and you literally see animals running through it, whether it's birds or I've seen a couple of foxes. Like, and I placed a couple of brush piles just for, you know, biodiversity. Let them, and sure enough, there they are. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it absolutely does make a difference. You're right.
Size matters a lot on it too. Like we use it a lot for like sites that we specifically want to grow yellow birch back. Yellow birch is such a tiny, fine little seed, and it needs either exposed mineral soil or like its preferred place to grow is actually an old rotten log. So like any coarse woody material that's over 30 centimeters is important enough to the point that like in my harvest prescriptions, I'll actually write it in that if the harvester's rolling along, you get that big dead piece of dead wood. I don't want you to run it over. Cut it off if you need to, pick it up and put it over to the side. You know, like the fine stuff it's all good, it all goes back into the soil, but it depends on what your goal is for the site or what you need to do for the site too. If you know, if you're looking for natural regen, it might take a little bit longer. If you're thinking you want to go plant, like we're having tons of problems. If you're not going to do a bunch of site work or anything, it makes it hard to go back and plant on some of those sites. So yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. So one of the things that the PEI woodlot, one of the mandates that we started with many years ago is that we recommend select cut and small patch cut and of course brush piles, you know, out to the side.
Just have another question for you.
Go ahead.
And like, what size equipment are you using, and like, what are you running?
When I very first started, so I'm going to sound kind of really backwards. I actually started 7 years ago carrying everything off my hand. And I still split everything by hand. And that's, I don't think there's too many people that do that. Right now I use a winch off a log loader and logging arch and four-wheeler. And people look at me going, how do you make a living with this?
Right.
But I actually do. My wife stays at home with my 4 kids. I take care of, you know, the kids are all in different programs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I've had to be pretty clever. You know, but like if I'm doing something, if I'm gonna go do a white pine commercial thinning, because it's all weevil, I'll cut and drop it, I can make money at that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we decide to enrichment plant it, I'll make money at that. If they want to prune up trees afterwards, I'll make money at that. And I can kind of, you have to be fast and efficient. I've had about 6 or 7 guys who have worked with me in the last years and they're, oh, I want to do this. Like, I'm excited to get into it. They get into it, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
So how do you get that information that you obviously have to turn that dollar? Because like
a couple years of almost going broke.
But my biggest obstacle, honestly, has been the education piece. I feel like there's a lot of gatekeeping going on, and like I bought equipment specifically to help a group like this.
Yeah.
And it fucking sits.
Yeah, I found for myself, I would hit walls where I was trying to figure out, or I'd do say a patch cut, and I would make next to money at it. And I'd have to mentally note down, okay, if I'm going to do this in the future, these are my obstacles, and this is how I'm going to improve on it. And just the first couple of years was pretty touch and go.
Yeah.
But now, like, an example would be if I'm gonna go into a pre-commercial, if that pre-commercial is almost commercial, you're not gonna make money at it. So you're almost falling commercial trees. But if you go into a pre-commercial that just qualifies, and it's all by stem count, then you can make a pretty good living at it. And if I can combine that with another site where I have the product, then I'm doing really well. Also, because I tree plant as well, when I'm at a site, I'm always looking at that. Okay, I'm gonna commercially thin this, I'm gonna enrichment plant it, I'm gonna do whatever I can, and I can kind of already dollar amount my income based off that. And I'm kind of free in my head, even if I'm only making a certain amount doing this commercial thing, I'm gonna make X amount more when I plant this. And that's gonna even out into a pretty decent amount.
Feel like we have a bigger conversation now.
Yeah.
So we've got 250 acres on this beautiful estate, woodland, and so we could hire somebody to come in and manage it. There's nobody here that's going to be able to do it. So, any more questions? Yes.
I just got a comment up west end of the island. In the last 15-20 years, we do all the site prep with brush hogs, microsites, because they used to do it anchor chains and brush rakes. So you got to run machinery over again after the wood's out. So we can do now. The guys got really good at it. We can do 90% of the clear cuts with just brush hogs. You just do little microsites, and all the slash stays there. You don't have big dozers coming in and a brush rake or all of it. So that's very good for the forest soil.
Go ahead, John.
Optimism? Do you guys have optimism for the forest industry? I mean, I know right now things are bad, but I mean, if you look at demographics, you know, house building was supposed to be great in the 20s, right? Early 20s. So what's going to happen in another 30 years, or I don't know, I just, what do you guys, as you're in it, do you see optimism in it, or what is your sense of hope? That's it.
Just like you said there, just with the challenges that we have right now, like even, I know the boat may not seem like a big deal, but that is a big loss, like for Jody, for myself as a smaller contractor, that literally has an effect on my family, do you know what I mean? So moving forward, I see a lot of new growth myself. I do like to get out and walk, and I do see a lot of softwood, you know, stands that have been properly managed, and they're coming up nicely. But it'd be nice to see the price change, because I know it has not over in 30, 35 years or something, and it's 2024, so they will have to definitely change some stuff for it to be as prosperous as it was. So that's my opinion anyway.
I hope so. I got 20 years left.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in it 20 years now, and I've been lucky. I live where I grew up, so I didn't move away to work, but it's definitely tough. I think groups like this need more meetings probably with other groups to get on the same page maybe. But yeah, I do think it will survive. There'll be probably some mills and some players that don't survive, but the ones that want to survive will survive. It'll be bad probably for another 5-10 years maybe, hopefully not that long, but it will survive. It definitely will be different, but I think we'll make it.
I think there's going to be definitely some hardships. I think you need to be able to adapt to the market really quickly. I know for myself, if I'm not earning at certain things, I'm going to switch to something else in a heartbeat. If I find that I'm budget, because again, there's no budget over the winter really left for FEP. So you're anticipating that, you switch to something else if you're able to. And I have other jobs lined up all winter, and then when the budget resets April 1st, I'll hop on the bush saw, I'll start tree planting, get all that done, and then switch back to something else. So if you're flexible and you have good relationships with people on the island, and you do good work, I think you will survive. And if you don't, then I think there will be some natural inhibitor.
I think that some of you already got something through the website. I know Rob sent out to members regarding a survey that's being done on the future use of biomass in Prince Edward Island. And you just have to drive around the island to realize how much wood is out there that could be used for biomass. And I encourage you to fill out that survey or find access to it, because I think there is potential with biomass. Well, as Jody mentioned, I mean, it would be nice to get a decent price for it. One of the biggest yards is just over in 10 Mile House, and that's wood for heat. And they have a lot of contracts, and I was involved with the Forest Advisory Group as chairman about 15 years ago or whatever, and the government changed and decided they didn't need an advisory group. So we did a survey at that particular time, and we said we had the expertise in Prince Edward Island to build furnaces that are just as good as the Austrian ones and as the Swedish ones, but we could build them in Prince Edward Island. We could set up community heating units, for example, in Mount Stewart or Montague or Morel, where there's a cluster of government buildings and government housing and private homes that are in a reasonable area. They could be offsetting the cost and the use of fossil fuels in Prince Edward Island. And I know over 20 years ago, I worked in the Montague area anyway and lived there, and I was trying to encourage the town at that time. And I know that I think the Sustainable Forestry Industry Group made a proposal, and too often these proposals, they come through and, oh yeah, they're great ideas, and then they just shove them under the table and try to ignore them. But I think that if there was enough of a push from individuals on PEI, then the government and various groups would get on board and recognize that there's a lot of potential there, and that would be another avenue to get rid of all the waste wood that's involved in the forestry industry. But we have to, as public, I think, really push government and municipal or provincial governments to take advantage of that, because there's no way that they would ever cut down enough trees. People are concerned, oh, if you develop the biomass industry, you're going to deplete the forest. Well, yeah, in maybe 100 years, but I don't think any of us will have to worry about that.
But we should be worried about that, because the biomass is there to protect our land and everything else. And by doing too much cutting, if you go from 60,000 tons to 250 tons, you've got a problem. Like we don't want to cut down our forests, and we definitely don't want to cut down our good forests for biomass.
Well, you misinterpreted me, because I wasn't saying we go clear cut the forest. What I'm saying is that we're using wood, like Jody mentioned, that the contractors are driving over right now, because there's no market for it.
But then sometimes it's going to end up, you can't police it enough that it's not going to be cut properly.
But they're oh, sorry, go ahead,
If
Elijah.
I could say something, Travis and I inquired about the biomass in 10 Mile House.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't take anything from us unless it was going to be coming from a thinning operation.
No.
So anything that wasn't marketable, it would just be left. And where was I going with that, guys? Oh yes, they would send somebody out to site and make sure that we were actually thinning and not clear cutting.
Yeah.
If we were clear cutting, we're done. They wouldn't have any of it. It had to be in a thinning. So we're all about sustainability too. It has to make sense. And this with Fiona, the amount of material that's been just destroyed. Oh my Lord.
And unfortunately, the stuff that is on the ground,
Years.
when it's piled like that, unfortunately, I can tell you that nothing is going to grow underneath that.
It's a mess. It's a mess. It takes 3 times as long to go harvest a tree than it used to.
Yeah, and people can't afford to hire people like you to go in to clean it up.
It costs a lot.
And there's still the fire danger out there. I mean, that's why we're promoting Fire Smart
Absolutely.
all over PEI, as well as next door.
But we don't want to call it waste either, because there's something good to it, even though it's, so it's just
Yeah,
terminology.
we have what we call percentage of woody material that we recommend you leave on the ground for the next. You don't need to leave 100% of the material on the ground that's fallen down, but we can take some of that and then you can leave material underground for the next, if you're gonna replant, of course.
Yes.
If you're gonna turn it into corn, well, it's a different story.
If,
Yes.
if you manage the wood right, you should never run out of wood. Right? Like each province, I don't know about PEI, but Ryan can help me out with this one. Each province got an AAC of wood they need to cut to keep that wood, keep the forest healthy. By not cutting that, you're doing worse than overcutting.
Exactly.
Right now, Ryan, you can correct me, but we're probably half what we should be in Nova Scotia for AAC. Is that right? Around
Yeah,
there?
we're nowhere as close.
Nowhere near
Like,
close.
for Nova Scotia, you think about us, like, you know, in my time, I came into forestry right after minus, we stopped doing pulpwood.
Yeah.
We don't have bulk water anymore, we don't have northern pulp, Port Oxford paper's half of what it used to be.
Sure.
So, you know, like, we're down millions of cubic meters a year over what we used to cut, so.
And that's doing just as much.
Yeah, and
By
it's
overcutting.
my big thing with biomass is that it's kind of been co-opted, it's turned into a dirty word.
Yes.
But it's more to your point, like, it's all about how you source it and where it's coming from. So, like, you know, there's some projects that I don't know a lot about, but I've heard, like, you know, Nova Scotia, there's a new hospital being built and they're gonna do district heating for that. But as far as I understand, I haven't seen the contract for it, but like, there's very specific wording. I think to the point that they're only gonna buy wood from either sawmills or from FSC certified woodlots, which is, you know, FSC is not perfect, but it promotes good sustainable
Yes.
forestry. It's audited. Yeah, so
And
there's
it's
a lot around that.
It's just like Roger said. John?
Yeah, maybe 2 cents on biomass. Like the province does have a pretty aggressive renewable energy strategy,
Yes.
so I think biomass can play a pretty important role in that. But the only way that biomass sort of works as an energy source to like work towards those like net zero goals is because like the idea of biomass, burning biomass as a net zero energy thing, all the wood that gets burned has to be offset by growth in the areas that you did not harvest that year. So I think like concerns that were raised here are relevant, but I do think that we're not that far, like we have the tools at our disposal to create something that could be like set up for auditing for those types of purposes. You know, basically the analytical tools are already there, like they're in the state of the forest report about like expected yield to following tree thinnings and things like that. It's critical that you don't like amplify costs, because then like the intermediaries that are responsible for the auditing, they make all the money and
Exactly.
that's not good. But in terms of like what this hypothetical supply could be, I mean, I really do think that we should be looking at, you know, amplifying our biomass offtake, you know, probably 4 or 5 times what it currently is. I think the yield and like what's currently out there is like does support that. But just having the infrastructure in place to make sure that we're not depleting, that we're actually, if you want something on like a 50-year rotation or something like that, that means you're allowed to cut 2% of your standing timber every year, and the rest has to be allowed to grow. And that was probably a little bit more detailed how you thin and whether that stimulates productivity. You can be quite scientific about it, but I mean, if you just look at the timber stocking that's in the state of the forest report, I mean, I think about 60% of the material that's out there is classified as non-millable product. So I think I don't see a future where we're achieving sustainable forest, like viable forest conservation, without like this increasing the productivity in the forestry sector. And like when you look at what's there, a lot of it's non-millable, and I think those 2 things just have to add up. Like they add up to kind of like what you're saying. It's kind of dicey in the future. Like, how are you going to motivate a new generation of woodlot owners to buy up this private property if it's basically just like a luxury commodity that you own for the sake of enjoying 50 acres of semi-natural, most of it's quite degraded. So dovetailing the idea of getting it all right, but I think it's pretty possible. Yeah.
And what you find happening, and I think the guys here already talked about that, is that if there is land that has been reclaimed by forest over the last 75 or 100 years, and it could be good farmland, because the value of farmland has skyrocketed, whereas the value of woodland has plummeted. So it's a no-brainer, right? You see what's happening all across the island. So we don't need to worry about a biomass industry or a lumber industry because it's not going to be there.
May I add to the biomass quickly?
Sorry, yeah.
I would just love to see it through the FEP program. I would love for the technicians to be able to have a biomass allotment. So when they suggest you do a thinning or any proper silviculture practices, that they can incentivize that to be done by saying, hey, I'll allot 30 quart or 50 quart of biomass if you do this treatment. That way you have someone who's already being paid, who can certify that it's coming through proper silviculture, and it will incentivize that kind of activity. Like if the FEP program had something like that, it would be awesome for contractors, because it really helped make that extra amount of money when you're commercially thinning or whatnot.
Okay, Julie, can you take it back to the guys that helped the road?
Sure, I'll send it over to Lowell.
Or Lowell, yeah, okay, sure.
I was just enjoying the day here. Oh, they continue. Go home with that.
You don't get a day off.
Yeah.
Question down back. We are, well, I said we had allocated an hour, and we'll have a couple more questions. We have a tour of the woodlot if anybody is interested and wants to brave the elements. We also have a tour of the house, the Allendale House. That's scheduled for 3:30. I don't know if there's going to be an overlap between the same people that do the woodlot tour or tour of the house, but we'll sort of play that by ear. We'll see how many want to follow Ryan into the wilderness, and then we'll take it from there. So, yes, your question, sir.
Question or comment. I'm one of the bad guys that built the district heating system in Charlottesville. Now that plant burns 30,000 tons of wood chips, green wood chips. And it bugs me to no end that it's coming straight from clear cut, nothing else. And for the last 15 years, I've been trying to get government to at least apportion some of it to a sustainable harvest source. And I've been getting absolutely nowhere with government. They're not interested, or they don't have the expertise. I know heat pumps is the focus. That seems to be the only thing. So I know enough information that if there's a group here that wants to make this happen, it can be done. I've talked to a couple of people already. You've got to go through the back door and get some support to force the government to do it. So I hope these people that I talk to are going to take that initiative, and I'll help that. But going to the government, you're wasting your time. I'm being blunt, but it's my experience, okay? And part of the problem is, and I'm probably going to offend some people, there seems to be an attitude that biomass harvest is bad, so we have nothing to do with it. So what is the alternative? Clear cutting. Because they're not going to shut the plant down, which they should do if that's their principle. But nobody won't shut it down, so we get, clear cutting, whatever is going on. But this group, if there's some initiative through the back door, they can force government to start selective harvest for that plant.
Yeah, well,
and just to put it in perspective, the 30-year contract with the government is up August 2025. So now is the time to do that. So I've talked to some people. I'm getting too old for this.
Well, I can tell you, I guess you're never too old, but there's a lot of young people involved here, and there's also many of the board from the PEIWA are here. And different contractors have different business models, and I can tell you from experience, because I've been well aware of that for the last 30 years, because the same contractor who's supplying that has come to me even 30 years ago and said, do you have a management plan on your woodlot? And I said, yes, of course I do. Oh, well, we can't touch anything with management plans. And that's the attitude of certain contractors who supply that particular plant, and that's the issue. And it's not that we haven't complained over the years. The forestry ministers have changed, and You know, I'm not saying anything more, make it political.
Well, can I make one more comment? I know he's trying to shut me up.
No, I never said anything.
But I know about 10 years ago, I was talking to a contractor.
Yeah.
And he needed about 10,000 tons to have a viable business on the wood chip side. It can be done, but maybe the existing contractors, you know, they're just like me, they're getting old and aren't willing to change the habits. Maybe we need to bring in a new contractor.
Sure.
So somebody's got to go to government, put their foot down.
Yep.
To make some change.
Well, they're the ones that
Anyway,
pull the
I'll
strings.
shut up now.
Yeah. Awesome, thank you. Roger, last call.
Last call. I was trying to understand what you're saying there, but there's a young man right there, two of them actually. I bet you.
You're not good, Jody.
Two contractors there.
There's 3 or 4 behind you.
Okay, well, you know, we're always looking to diversify too. And we talk about, you know, how's things gonna be sustainable? Well, there's a prime example. If there's somebody in need and there's one guy is supplying all that, why can't a group of us get together, buy a chipper and help sustain that? That'd give us an extra market. We're not looking to clear cut. We're, you know, because we have to have woodland. You're only a young man yet, so you're gonna be in it for another 25, 30 years.
Yep.
Right? So the stuff that we leave standing today will be accessible again tomorrow.
Yep.
And we're all about that as well. I mean, it only makes sense. So why can't we get together, buy a chipper, and help people with that, and have a decent market? It's just, you know, it's common sense.
And you have to be on the right side of government so you can get the contract.
There's probably some grants available.
But there's also a lot of groups that we could work together. Like I Nature Trust would probably rather, if there is biomass going, it would be sustainable, I'm assuming. So maybe we could work that way. And sure, there's almost no contractors that wouldn't agree with that.
That's right.
And forest technicians would probably love to have more leeway. So there's enough. If we all worked in some kind of common goal to say at least, it may not be perfect for everyone, but this is better than it is.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
We
right.
could put pressure on it.
It's a step in the right direction.
That's an excellent point to finish up on, because we as an association, I'm saying PEIWA, have been trying for years to get the contractors to become involved with our association. And the contractors that are out there around PEI, they're pretty well down to maybe you know, what I can do with my 2 hands. And that's what, they were basically in silos. They would work in silos and they didn't talk to anybody, and as long as they could make money and as long as they could do their thing, that's the way. But we need to have the contractors part of the PEIWA and connect with the landowners so that we can build a sustainable industry. Okay, well, big hand for the guys up front.